With its latest update, called Next, No Man's Sky has rounded off enough of its rough edges and piled in enough content that exploring its weird galaxy is usually rewarding. It's definitely a treadmill though, and while there are countless upgrades and ships to acquire, bases to build, and resources to mine, the process of earning them involves hours upon hours of mindless and repetitive work. Hopping in a spaceship, flying out of the atmosphere into space, and then landing on another planet that looks completely different is as amazing as ever. Some worlds are scenic and beautiful, begging you to use the camera mode. Others are barren and ugly, and others are just bizarre. There really is an impressive range of sights. Playing in third-person perspective is great because the nicely animated and customizable character models really seem to be having a fun time bouncing around with the jetpack. It makes it much more entertaining to see somebody moving around these sparsely populated landscapes. But even though each world looks different, they're all still functionally identical. The same bar that decreases when it's hot also decreases when it's cold or toxic, and you always fill it back up with the same resource. Animal life is hugely varied, sometimes hilariously so, but they have few unique behaviors. Most resources are mined in the same handful of ways everywhere in the universe. After the first few hours, there aren't many new tricks up No Man's Sky's sleeve when it comes to the moment-to-moment gameplay. And that remains the biggest problem with No Man's Sky. You spend the majority of your time doing this to get materials to do everything else. And when you run afoul of the annoyingly touchy Sentinel Robocops or pirates, combat is simplistic and weak both on the ground and in space. Dull fights and relentless pursuits make all the combat-based missions you can run a drag. What it does have is lots and lots of things to pour your hard-earned resources and money into for upgrades, which come at a pace that's just rewarding enough to keep me chasing the next one. The new base system that lets you build structures anywhere seems at odds with the nomadic nature of No Man's Sky, but if you do decide to put down stakes on a favorite planet, handy teleporters can get you back there whenever you want. You can even build up a mobile base in the form of a massive freighter that follows you around and carries your precious resources. It too is hungry for upgrades, and you can build up an entire fleet of escort frigates that can go on missions to collect resources for you. Joining a multiplayer game makes this universe feel a lot less lonely by letting you team up with up to 3 others to explore and run missions together. It's fun to goof around by building together or digging holes and sealing each other into them. Lasering rocks together isn't any more entertaining though, and how is there no cool effect for crossing the streams? It's also been extremely buggy, so you should absolutely do a manual save before joining a game to avoid losing progress. Also, be aware that performance isn't great on any platform. There's hitching and major pop-in on the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, especially when you're landing on a new planet. And on PC, I couldn't get a steady 60 frames per second out of any resolution higher than 1080p, even with a GTX 1080 and a Core i7-7770. We've also hit a few mission scripting bugs that have forced us to restart games, but mostly in the first couple of hours. Flying from planet to planet in search of the universe's rarest materials and technologies in No Man's Sky Next scratches an exploratory itch. It still carries a lot of caveats. It's mechanically repetitive no matter what planet you're on. The dull combat should be avoided whenever possible, and bugs are plentiful. But buying new ships and building new things is enough motivation to keep it entrancing, for a while at least. For more on No Man's Sky Next, check out the 9 weirdest things we've seen, the Xbox One X versus Xbox One graphics comparison, and the first 15 minutes of gameplay. And for everything else, stick with IGN.